All right, now that we've got a working structure, a solid ground base, we switch it over to TypeScript. It runs, it builds. Let's go ahead and get started with Git. Git is the most popular version control system right now. It tracks the content of the file, so when they change, it'll let you know. It allows you to look at the story, go back and forth. And if this is your first dive into version control, it's pretty good that you're getting a start today in 2022, because things used to be different, and Git is just incredible. So let's get started. The first thing, of course, we want to check is if Git is installed. Now, the real skill in programming isn't all of this stuff and, connecting the wires. Is finding yourself at a moment like this where it's like, I need to know how Git is installed. And then going from there to finding the solution. That's the real skill. And it's just as simple as finding the question. Because once you've got the question, just go to Google and be like, how to check if Git is installed. You can do this with absolutely everything. And I'm pretty sure you'll find a solid answer. Ugh. European privacy. All right, so there you go. You gotta do Git version. That's the real skill. So let's check if it's installed in our system. I've just shown you the skill that can get you from typing in Notepad to running a company. So this is probably my best video ever. But okay, let's continue. So Git is not recognized. That probably means that it's not installed. So let's go ahead and install Git. Git, Windows, go to the download page, download for Windows. Oh, here it is. Weird, it downloaded it twice. Okay. It's fine. We want to make sure we definitely get Git bash here and Git UI here. This allows you to shift right click and then you get those options. It's very useful when you want to know the status of things. I don't recommend Vim to newcomers, but if you are brave, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code because it's the same one we've been using for our application. So let's go ahead and let this install, finish. I'm using basically the options, the least amount of options possible. You won't have to worry about any of these things, especially if you're working alone, but yeah, this is really helpful. All right. So once this is installed, we're going to go ahead and create our first repository. Actually, we can do that while that installs. So I've already gone ahead and created a GitHub account for sharing this repository with all of you. So let's go ahead and sign in. Let's go ahead and sign in with my email and my password. It's not my password. This is my password. There we go. Sure, why not? Okay, now we're going to create our first public repository, and this is going to be called a React timer. Let's go. Okay, now that we have our first repository, we can go ahead and initialize a local repository. So the way Git works is that it'll maintain a repository in every, a local copy of a repository in every machine. So imagine there is this repository we're looking at right now in GitHub, which is empty. And it's called React Timer. And I'm going to create another repository locally and let's see if it worked. Remember I told you the prompts don't recognize Windows registry key changes. So you have to do this. Close it and open it. So it looks like it did work. It is installed. So now we're gonna create the local repository. All right, so now we're gonna use that feature I told you about when we were installing, which is the git bash here. Unfortunately, Windows 11 has hidden. This used to be the normal context menu, but now it's hidden. So we're gonna bash here, and then we're gonna go into our application directory. And the way you create a local repository is by doing git init. So a quick recap. We have the repository I created on the website, and we have a local repository. And you'll know that you'll notice that nothing has changed here except the addition of the gitignore file. But what really tells you that a folder is being tracked by Git is this hidden folder .git. I'm not going to go into a lot of details of all the things that are in here and how it works, but basically this is where the sausage is made. This is how Git will track merges and objects and changes and things. And if you have a .git in your directory, you're probably looking at a local repository. But now, the next thing we want to do is add all of our files to the staging area. So now when we check status, I was just making sure that the node modules was indeed getting ignored, because it's huge and there's no need to version control that. That's basically tracked by the package .json that we were looking at before. So that's good. This is what I wanted to see. When you do git status, you get the status of all the tracked files that you've added. And if I, for example, add a new file here, Windows really changed everything. And then you do git status, it should tell you that there's a couple of files that you're not tracking. And if I were to change an already tracked file, it would tell me there's a difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this guy. Actually, don't want that there. Now, I think I do want to commit the gitignore. That's fine. Okay, so now I think we are ready to go ahead and commit these changes. So when you do a commit, it's basically bunching up a bunch of changes, like just grouping a bunch of changes into like basically like a label. And then you can add a message to it. initial commit. So now we were able to do nothing because we haven't configured our Git identity, and that's going to be really important because otherwise, if we don't do that, we're going to have to add the password every time we make a change. So the first thing we'll need to do is add our Git username by doing git config global user.name. That is going to be Mr. Funk. And then we are going to add the email. Which is Mr. Funk at mrfunk.com. And now we should be able to let GitHub know who we are. Now the commit got created correctly. I'm not gonna go ahead and do the SSH stuff right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the password. We wanna make sure that we get the first step done. Like many of the other things that we're gonna be doing here, you can go through a bunch of branches, but that is not our purpose here. So let's go ahead and connect our local repository with our GitHub repository. The way to do that is to go to our repository right here. We want to copy this URL and we're going to say add a remote origin. So this will let the local repository know that there is an origin that it can point to where the repository is right now. And I will not go into the details of the branches, master versus dev, and origins, and detached heads and stashes and all the Git things, because we just want to get started. And for that, we'll need to push our changes to our master branch, which is right now the only branch, but Git works with the ability of creating multiple branches, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to push everything into our master branch. At some point it's going to want my password, and I'm going to go find it because I don't remember it. Oh, already asking me. Oh, it's nice. It lets me sign in with the browser. Oh, that's cool. That's new. Damn, that's awesome. Well, that saved us a lot of time. So let's go back to this, and oh, it looks like this got pushed. Let's check. So this is what our page looked like. So if you refresh, nice. Our initial commit message is displayed here. So you'll notice this is 3 minutes ago because this is when you commit the changes, not when you push them. That's something very important, especially when you're tracking work across many days and projects. So that's it. Basically, we're done. This is the README that gets created from the initial scaffolding of the application, and that's it. We've got our local repository connected to our GitHub repository. So now, even if we completely lose this machine, we'll never lose this code because it's on GitHub. I guess it's possible that GitHub goes under and then we would lose it. But the good thing is that in a real business, every single machine will have a local copy of the repository. So in order for you to lose all of your work, you would have to lose every single machine that has ever pulled any changes ever. So that's a lot of losses. Anyway, so we're good to go now. Next, we'll talk about adding routing to our application. Good day.